Hi everybody, my name is Mohamed IHID. I am a student of English Studies from the University of Ibn Zor. Today I will deliver to you a short presentation of our PFA on behaviorism, supervised by Dr. Youssef TAMER, whom I appreciate so much, and I would like to thank him for giving us this opportunity to prove ourselves. It was really a fascinating experience. I would like to mention that the project was prepared by myself and my partner Lamia Ido Mohammed, whom she committed to prepare the first part of the presentation. We will start with the table of contents. Typically, we begin with an introduction, historical background of TEFL, then definition of behaviorism. Secondly, the principles of behaviorism. We will focus on the stimulus versus response, then classical conditioning versus operant conditioning. Thirdly, the implication of behaviorism for teaching. Finally, a conclusion. I would like also to mention that my part will start from here. I will focus on operant conditioning, then the implication of behaviorism for teaching, finally a conclusion. I will start with defining operant conditioning theory. This theory was developed for many years by B.F. Skinner, whom he coined the term operant conditioning in 1937. It was a behavioral view which emphasized associative learning. The operant conditioning was also a refinement of Ivan Pavlov's earlier concept, classical conditioning, that my partner is going to deal with in her first part. In operant conditioning theory, which is basically based on the operant conditioning chamber, also commonly known as Skinner box. It was an experimental apparatus that was invented by B.F. Skinner in 1935. The theory suggests that humans and animals operate on their environment, and in doing so encounter reinforcing stimuli that shape behavior. Skinner used in this experiment the operant chamber to study the learning process of small animals. The chamber is characterized of being soundproof, light resistance. It usually contains a bar or a lever to be pressed by animal to get a reward such as food or to avoid a painful stimulus such as a shock. Here's the picture. As you can see, the chamber is large enough to accommodate the animal. Here's the bar, here's the electric ridge, here's the food cup. In operant conditioning states that environmental consequences of the environment's reaction to an individual's behavior controls that an individual's behavior. The theorists such as Skinner states that actions which are followed by reinforcing consequences are more likely to reoccur, while actions that are followed by unpleasant ones or punishing consequences are less likely to occur. We can conclude that the occurrence of a behavior depends on whether the consequences of response are favorable or unfavorable. Unlike the earlier concepts, classical conditioning, which depends only on biological response to some stimulus, such as food in Ivan Pavlov's salivation, the operant conditioning applies to voluntary responses, which an organism deliberately performs in order to achieve a desired outcome. Now we will move to the movers of operant conditioning, which are reinforcements and punishments. Skinner distinguished between the positive and the negative reinforcements as well as with the punishments. We will start with the punishments. It is a consequence that increases the probability of a behavior will occur. The reinforcements can be taught in terms of reward. Reinforcement, as Skinner used it, can be either positive or negative. For the positive part, the frequency of a response increases because it is followed by a rewarding stimulus, as in the example in which the teacher's comments increase the student's writing behavior. In the positive reinforcement, a person displays certain behavior due to the fact that in the past it has led to desirable outcome. Some other examples, we start with a factory workers who are efficient are given bonus. There is a high probability that the factory workers will strive to be more efficient so that they will be given bonus. Their behavior is striving in work, and the reinforcement is the bonus they are given. For the negative reinforcement, we can see that it is a stimuli when removed increases the probability of a particular behavior occurring in the future. Refer to Skinner's box. An electric was introduced and the rat jumped around. However, when it pressed the bar, the electric shock was switched off. So guess what happened? The rat pressed the bar. His behavior is pressing the bar more frequently in order to avoid the painful discomforts from the electric shock. In negative reinforcement, we refer to the unpleasant stimulus whose removal from the environment leads to an increase in the probability that a preceding response will occur again. With negative reinforcement, an individual engages in behavior to avoid a previously experienced negative response. The two main classes of a behavior produced by negative reinforcement are escaping and avoidance. Escape response are the operands that allow a person to get away from aversive stimulus after the stimulus is present. For instance, a mother leaves her crying baby because she cannot bear to hear her child crying. Her behavior carrying the baby is being reinforced by his crying. She cannot bear his crying, so she carries him. When you enter a car, you put the safety belt. Here's your behavior because you want the sound of the buzzer. The buzzer keeps annoying you. This annoyance is what's making you put the safety belt, not for the safety's sake, but in order to stop this annoying with that vexing. This awful sound. In order to stop, you must put the safety belt. For the punishments, it is a consequence that increases the probability of a behavior will occur again. When an operant behavior is followed by a response that reduces the frequency of a similar response in the future, the stimuli called the punishment. It involves the presentation of an unpleasant stimulus or the removal of a pleasant one. If a person receives a significant fine after driving through a red light, the punishment is likely to reduce the tendency to speed through red lights in the future. As well, in punishments, we will find that there is a positive part and a negative part. We'll start with the positive. It works by the positive part works by representing a negative consequences after an undesired behavior is exhibited, making the behavior less likely to happen in the future. Positive punishment occurs when the onset of an aversive stimuli suppresses behavior. Positive punishment can be illustrated by thinking of a young child who disobeys his parents and receives a spanking for his response. Here the parent is adding an unpleasant stimulus, which is the spanking, with the hope that it will weaken the future response of the child and make it less likely to occur. For the negative punishments, it entails the removal of what is pleasant or desirable. It involves the removal of a stimuli. In this case, the goal is to decrease the probability of a behavior. So the stimulus removed is desired, pleasant, or positive stimulus. A good example of negative punishment is when a teenager is told she is grounded. and will no longer be able to use the family car because of her poor grades. The negative punishment entails the removal of what is pleasant or desirable using the car. Generally, punishment is not a very effective means of behavior control. It doesn't make behavior disappear. It just reduces the likelihood that they will appear again. Sometimes punishment is necessary. However, in order to be effective at all, the following factors in punishments must be present. Firstly, the punishments must occur immediately after the behavior. It must be strong but not overwhelming, and it must consistently follow every instance of the behavior to be reduced. We'll move on to the implications of behaviorism in teaching English. Behaviorism techniques have long been employed in education to promote behavior that is desirable and to discourage that which is not. Among the methods derived from behaviorist theory for particular classrooms are contrast, consequences, reinforcement and extinction, and behavior modification. Behaviorism can be effective in managing behaviors within a classroom setting, but it isn't effective when regarding the overall learning process. These people will validate the prior statements by answering the following questions. The first question: does behaviorism theory explain the way we learn? Second question: are teachers using behaviorism methods correctly? We will try to answer those questions. The first one: behaviorism is used in the classroom to control or maintain desired behaviors from students. It comes in the forms of prize, traits, grades, and discipline. It can also come in the form of memorization, drills, test preparation, and written and oral practices. So one can conclude that behaviorism technique helps students learn. To further reinforce this idea, Meklan 2005 states the account of learning on which this traditional teaching is based is one that assumes knowledge to be some source of commodity which can be passed from person to person in search from. The act of learning knowledge is different from each person. Therefore, behaviorism cannot aid in actual learning process. Instead, behaviorism should be only used as a tool to set behavior standards. The second question: are teachers using behavior methods correctly? A teacher who uses behaviorism correctly in the classroom realizes that the theory can be pertained to behaviors, not the acts of learning. It is a tool in behavior modification, allowing students to see the standard behavior expected and what will happen if that standard is not met. Teachers use the behaviorism theory when they use consequences and punishment to achieve the desired behaviors of classmates. Standard 2002. Using behaviorism in this manner is helpful and oftentimes results in success. So behaviorism is being used effectively in the classroom in most cases. Those teachers who use it to teach their students what type of behavior are acceptable and work hard to extinguish the types that are not will find success with the theory, but those teachers who use it as a knowledge-based learning tool are completely missing the mark of the effectiveness of behaviorism. Conclusion: behaviorism is basically concerned with learning. It focuses on stimulus that creates a response. It is an action-oriented and doesn't take into account thoughts and emotions associated with reactions or behavior because they are not observable and not measurable. Behaviorism is used in the classroom to control or maintain desired behavior from students. Teachers use behaviorism theory when they use consequences and punishment to